conversational flow agent here, and then we're just going to start from blank. There's a couple of people here that are pretty advanced with it, or you guys feel very confident with it. Obviously, I'm going to take it from like the very beginning, so hopefully you learn something new here as we go along. So on the Notion document, and you guys should have access to it, I kind of put here, and we're going to be building this as we go, but I kind of put all the different sections that I like to include in my prompts. You obviously don't have to have every single one of these sections in your prompt. This is kind of what I like to include, and we're going to be kind of building it based on this. But the first thing we're going to do is create our global prompt. And actually, before I do that, I'll select my settings here. I'm just going to go with the default with that particular voice there. I like to use Flash. I'm not sure if you guys have tried it out. I'm going to go with Flash here. Actually, for now, I'm going to go with Flash. This might change if we remember on our Mila note. We're going to want to handle like Spanish and maybe possibly Italian later on. So we're going to be able to do that with voice settings, or we might just duplicate this agent and create it in a different language. We'll see how that goes. For now, I'm just going to select Flash V2. And yes, let me share the Notion link really quick here, just so that we all are on the same. Okay, so that should be in the chat, and I'll pin that. Cool. Perfect. So when you first get in here, you can see this is all we have, just our little lonely welcome note here. We're going to start building out our prompt. And let me see, where should we build it out? We'll build this out in Notion, actually. Why is my other agent? There we go. Just had to refresh that. Perfect. So we'll go ahead and build it out here in Notion, just so we can all see. And then we'll just go ahead and copy and paste this. And again, you don't have to build it exactly like me. This is kind of what I like to include in all of my sections. But we're first going to start with a role. And for the role, all I'm going to do is Mia, which she's just going to be our virtual receptionist. I want her to have some knowledge on the dental procedures and obviously how scheduling works and with the insurance. We obviously want her to be efficient. And then her main role, the main thing she wants to do is schedule appointments, answer questions about services, and then obviously answer any questions about the practice. After my role, I always like to have, and let me know if you guys can see this, or we should just build it out in retail if that's actually better for you guys. The next thing I like to have is going to be context text. You know what? Let's just build this out in retail. Sorry, and I'll just paste this back. I don't like the way this looks. For the context, I want to know the time. So one of the things is going to be the time. I might want to know a little bit of information about the practice. In this example, I'm going to load up some information about the practice, just like some insurance, and then just like an address, just really quick. You don't have to do this, and then eventually we'll move this over to we might end up moving it to just like the knowledge base, but just for now, we will do it like this. So for the context, I want to pass over the current time. So especially if we're going to be handling appointment booking, I want to know that my agent has the time. So I'm going to put like the current time is, and I'm going to use a dynamic variable. Now this dynamic variable, or this variable I should say, it comes default. So we're just going to use current time. And actually I'm going to change this to my time zone. And let's go to documentation really quick. This recently changed, and you can actually select your time zone now. So I'll show you how to do that. So, and I will actually paste this too, just in case you guys don't have this. I'll paste this in the Notion document. I messed that up. Okay, I'll fix it later. Whatever. Okay. On here, if we scroll down, you're going to see that we have this current time. Before, it just used to be current time, and now you can actually select your time zone. So all we got to do is just add it to the name here. And I'm just going to copy this. I know this was like a highly requested feature. I certainly was waiting for this, so I'm glad it's here. Just going to paste that in here. Now I'm not in Sydney, so I'm going to change this to where I am, which is going to be Los Angeles. just like that. Any questions or concerns on that? Especially on the dynamic variable and then changing it to your own time zone there? No, we're all good? Okay, cool. Perfect. Okay. And for the sake of this, like I said, I'm just going to paste a little bit of information about the practice. We're eventually going to move this over to the knowledge base, but just for now, I'm going to do is practice details. And obviously the name is going to be retail dental. I gave it a, just an address here. Just going to put JSON code. We don't need to do that. Just an address, phone number, some hours. Let me make this. And then that's pretty much it there. Also, maybe it was obvious, but I'm using Markdown format. Are you guys all using Markdown when writing your prompts? Yeah. Okay. So on here, the next thing I'd like to include is just going to be a personality. I feel like this, and again, you don't have to, but I feel like this makes it more human. And if we go back to our Mila note here, we did include some stuff about her personality, right? So like be warm, empathetic, calm, professional. Sorry, my cat is in the way. Speak clearly. We got some of the stuff like about the dental services. So we're going to include some of this in the personality here. And I'm going to paste this over. Oops. Hey guys, let me know if like this is helpful, or like how you guys want me to go over this. Again, I'm still kind of new to this whole workshop, so this is, please feel free to stop me if you want me to do this in a different type of way, or if like this is too small or something. But here for the personality, again, I'm just including the things that we already have broken down, which is going to be welcoming, the fact that I want you to be professional, right? I want her to be cheerful. I don't want her to be all like, I don't know, boring. Obviously, she needs to be patient, focused, and understanding, especially because some of these patients are going to be, it's fairly small on your screen. Okay. If it's fairly small on your screen, sorry, just go back here in Notion and I'll make it bigger. That way, perfect. Hopefully this is better here. For the personality, we want to be patient, focused, and understanding. A lot of people are going to be anxious about calling the dentist, so we want to put that on there. And then anxious, that was actually one of the audiences, right? So that's where that came from there as well. If we go back to Milano, one of our audiences that we did a little bit of research on was going to be anxious patients. So that's the reason that that's also in there. The rest is pretty standard, just wanted to be efficient. So that's going to be my personality. Then I'm going to add a style. And for the style, you can get all sorts of fancy in here. This is just the communication style or the style guardrails. It can be called whatever's guardrails. I just call it guardrails like this, and this is actually how it's written also in the documentation. So I'm just going to go with style guardrails, and I used to put like a big old bullet point, and I will include both of them. For this one, I'm just going to do like a very simple, like, be clear, friendly, reassuring, make sure that you speak, that you're professional, warm. I'm going to show you this other one prompt that I used to use, and I still use it at time to time. We can test both of them because I used to go pretty hard on the whole style guardrails. Sometimes I feel like it can be overwhelming. So I'm going to paste the ones that I used to use, which is just basically a bunch of bullet points very similar to this. So these I can still do. I'm going to leave these on here. Maybe you'll find some of this stuff helpful here for you. And we might end up using it again. We're going to be testing this out throughout. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to go with the one above. But I did just want to also share this just in case you might find some information helpful from here and use it in your own prompts there. So.
Hey, Alex, real quick, I know you kind of briefly mentioned it when we kicked off, but is there a reason why this is going, like, or I guess let me rephrase that. Why would you put this here versus the knowledge base, like or whether it's the style guardrails or even like the practice details or anything that's kind of that would apply to any of the prompts through the conversation?
The style guardrails, I want it to be in the system prompt. The knowledge base, yes, absolutely. I was just going to put this in the knowledge base. The only reason that I'm putting it here, just for like right now, is just so that when I call it and if I ask it a question, it has a little bit of context. That was it. It was just for testing purposes. That's it.
Okay, fair enough.
Absolutely. This will go in the knowledge base, and anything else what's going to go in the knowledge base. This was just for now. because we are going to be building a full knowledge base. So theoretically, the only thing that I would probably have in the context, and as we go along, the only stuff that we're really going to have is going to be like the current time. We might want to pass like the patient information, right? So we might say the patient is patient name. We might want to pass that as a dynamic variable, which we will do later on, patient name. We might also on here pass patient history, so maybe like the last appointment, anything like that. So that's what we're going to be using the context for. But for now, again, all I have is just the current time. I want to know what time it is, especially for booking appointments. And I'm just passing this information, practice details, for the sake of the demo there. So hopefully that makes sense. And then the other question regarding the style guardrails, why I don't put this in the knowledge base. For me, the knowledge base is for referencing, again, literally that, just knowledge on the business, where the guardrails is like, I want the assistant to do all these things here. So for example, some of these might be like avoiding number lists, right? Like, I don't want you to say, if I have like a list of medications, don't say like 1, this medication, 2, this medication, just maybe like say more natural. So hopefully that makes sense as to why I wouldn't put the style guardrails in the knowledge base. That would be maybe something interesting to test out to see if it works. And have you tested that out, Mike?
Yeah, I have, and it didn't work. But I don't know if I don't know how solid the prompting was with it. So I would continue to test.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll be curious on that. I feel like it's going to be better if these are going to be in the system prompt and in the knowledge base. But we'll test this out. And again, I'm going to include these down below just so you can have them. There, close. Perfect. Okay, so I have my style guardrails. The other thing that I like to include is just going to be a goal. Sometimes this might be a little too much. It's up to you guys. I always like to just kind of repeat the goal again, which is going to be obviously provide good customer service, make sure that you schedule the appointments, answer any questions about the services. And what I would do here is I would test this, and eventually I would get rid of this because we're kind of mentioning some of this stuff up here as well. Sometimes I found that it helps, like, to make sure that it stays on task. Sometimes it doesn't make a difference, so I'll delete it. So this really depends, but for now we'll include it. And this prompt is pretty much going to be just constantly changing as we go along. It'll change. Perfect. So I got my star guardrails, I got my goals. The last thing I'm going to add is going to be some response guidelines on here. So let's go down. So this is going to be how I want her to obviously respond to the user. And I'm going to paste the ones that I typically use here. Perfect. So we'll quickly go through this. Stay in character. Obviously, I want her to stay in character, ensure that it's a fluid dialogue. Definitely did not make up any answers. We want her to, again, make sure that she brings back the conversation to whatever topic we're currently talking to. The professional and personable, that should be fine. I want her to keep everything short, that do not ramble on for too long. Definitely important there. And I think everything else is pretty good here. So I'm just literally going to grab this and I'm going to paste it into my retail agent here. I'm just going to save this really quick. Any questions on any of this? I hope this is helpful.
Yeah, maybe not related to what you are writing in details, but I was just wondering if I wanted in French, should I write every details in English and then say if we should traduce everything in French, or what's better? Sometimes in some prompts it's better to write it in English and then...
Yeah, you can still write in English. We write them in English, even for other languages.
Okay, it's better to write it everything in English.
I'll write this. If I was going to make this, which we are, this agent in Spanish, literally same prompt, just speak in Spanish, and that's it. Same thing for Italian, and we tested this actually because that's actually what we had tried before. Originally, we thought that, hey, we're gonna have to write the prompt in Italian. And you can see we have this Italian prompt, right? Which, like, we did that. We translated everything and just kind of made it into Italian. Literally, we could have saved ourselves all this time and just put speak in Italian. Make sure that you always communicate in Italian, and that would have been it. So.
Except maybe when there's some contractions in the way of speaking, like you do have in English when you are saying WhatsApp, this kind of stuff. We have the same in French, and I guess in Spanish it's the same too. So in this case, we should write it down exactly the type of words the words that we contract.
Yeah, and also too on that, there are going to be certain words where, let me see, I think we had boosted them.
Because that's what makes really like human speaking natural, when you can make some contractions of words.
Yeah, there were some. We did boost some words. I don't know what we removed them there, but I know we had boosted words. And again, it comes down to testing, and I think depending on what your use case is there for your prompt there. So.
One more thing regarding typing it in English or another language. I noticed if you type the prompt in English, you have some tricks in order for the AI to make words pronounce words more correctly, like adding the dash, space, dash, space, dash, space. But if you convert it in Spanish, that trick might not work for that language. So it's like you have to learn tricks on both a language in order to make it work. So if you just stick with English, you just learn the tricks from one language and then just convert it on the language. I learned that a couple days ago.
Okay. Yeah, and again, I think it's going to have to come down to testing there.
Alex, I got a question for you.
Yes.
How would you insert instruction for it to corrective actions? For example, saying things like, I understand at the wrong time, and you want to train it not to do those things. Is there a format to put into the prompt? Just corrective actions. Hey, don't do this, don't do this. Just listen to the recording and correcting things from what you hear from the recordings.
So we can do that. This is during the conversation, right? Obviously. Sorry, because I kind of lost you in the beginning.
And
sorry.
you listen to it and you want to correct them not to do that, or how to, for example, they'll say, I understand at the wrong time, where somebody really didn't ask a question, so the response wasn't relevant to what was said. And you want to kind of guide them back in the right direction for future calls.
Okay. So you can give it a couple of things here. We can add, as part of the prompt, you'll notice that I have examples here. So we could list some of those examples and provide that context to the agent based on those conversations and how to respond to those particular conversations. Also on here, we do have special instructions, which we're going to go over on things that you should do and not do. This is like, I like to think of like hard coded stuff that we definitely don't want it to do. But I would say you can provide it examples. You could also do like error handling and mention those situations, and that could also work there as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're gonna go through some of this stuff like the special instructions. We can create and add examples, because what's gonna happen is as we're going through this build, we're gonna come across some of those things. Our goal over this period is to build a production ready agent, and we're all gonna be testing this out. So you guys are all experiencing all these sort of issues, and I think this is great because again, you guys will be able to test out the issue that you're experiencing on this agent, and then we'll figure out how to fix it together. Cool. So for now, this is going to be the prompt that we're going to go with. Again, later on, we will add those things like error handling and stuff like that. Any questions before we move on here? No? Good. Cool.
Just want to say thank you, because it's very good what you are doing to take some time and explain everything.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you guys for your patience. Like I said, this is new to me, so I'm still trying to kind of figure out the best format for you guys here. But yeah, I'm very happy to see a lot of familiar faces here. So yeah, very excited for this. In the knowledge base, like I said, we're going to be building out a knowledge base. We're going to be scraping a website and then putting all this together. So we'll save that for another time. So I'm going to skip this for now. Speech settings, I like to have a little background noise. You know, some people don't. I typically like the coffee shop for some reason, so I'm gonna go with coffee shop. Back channeling, I'm not gonna enable this. So this is when they say those words like, yeah, things like that. I know it sounds more human, but I'm not gonna enable this. I find that certain doctors don't like that, so I'm just gonna do that. Boosted keywords, I'm gonna leave this like that, same. The only thing that I'm gonna turn this is going to be this enable speech normalization. I don't want her to say, no, literally what it says right here, text elements like numbers, currency, and dates sound more human, and I definitely want that. I want it to sound more human, so I'm going to be turning that on. And the rest of this, I'm going to just leave. Pronunciations, we might mess around with this later on, depending if there's maybe like a medical center or something that she's not pronouncing right, then we might play around with that. But for now, we'll go ahead and skip. We don't need to do anything in call settings, especially the voicemails. Well, actually we do. Call duration, I'm going to turn this down just for the sake that we're testing it to like 10 minutes. I have sometimes forgotten to turn this on, and like I left like an hour-long voicemail because I didn't turn it on. So in the call silence, I'm just going to do like 2 minutes. If there's 2 minutes of call silence, then we can just go ahead and hang up. The pulse call, we're going to be handling that later. And then for security reasons, we'll be handling this later too. So those are going to be our first settings there. And then now let's work on our welcome notes. This is going to be the welcome message. And for here, I'm going to use a static. You can go ahead and use a prompt or a static sentence. Typically for, and actually before that, if you click on this begin, here you'll be able to see who speaks first. So because this is going to be an inbound agent, we first actually want the AI to speak first, not to remain silent. So we're going to click on that speak first. I'm going to leave that as is. And again, you can find that when you click on the begin. Now we're going to go ahead and set our welcome message, which our welcome message, we already had written it yesterday. Actually, got to switch it up a little bit, but just going to copy that. I'm going to put my welcome message. Again, this is going to be a static sentence. Thank you for calling. I'm going to call this Retail Dental. This is Mia. How may I help you? And then here is where we're going to build all of the different transitions, right? So if we go back to Mila note, a couple of things that we're going to build, right? It's going to be the appointment scheduling. Now for the appointment scheduling, we're going to have one for booking appointments. We're going to have one for canceling appointments. Technically, they could reschedule. Now, I'm going to put cancel and reschedule in the same node, if you will, just because they're kind of like this, very similar. If a person is canceling, we might want to get them to reschedule. If a person is rescheduling, they might cancel. So I'm going to put those together. We might also have confirmation, right? So they want to confirm their appointment, right? So confirmation. And then we have the insurance and billing prescriptions. We have pre-appointment preparation. Technically, that would probably fall under confirmation there as well. So I'm just going to move this there. Definitely prescription. Post-appointment, that is also a thing. So I'm actually going to move that there. And then we have referral management and then emergency cases. So let's go ahead and build those out. I'm going to go back to retail and I'm going to delete all these. I don't need any of these transitions, which is going to start from the beginning. I'm going to click on the little plus and then I'm going to describe this transition. So for this, I'm going to put user wants to book an appointment. I'm going to add another transition, which this one is going to be for user wants to cancel or reschedule an appointment. We're going to do another one for user wants to confirm an appointment. Or get information about their upcoming appointment too. So that can be, yeah, so get information about their upcoming appointment. Let's see what else we have. User might have a question, has an inquiry regarding insurance or billing, and I can just put that in. Has an insurance, and let me zoom this in. I think maybe I'm too far out. Hopefully you guys can see better. So user has an insurance or billing inquiry. That could be another one. What else do we have here? Insurance, prescriptions.
And talk to a specific person maybe, because she has her specialist habits with the same person.
Yeah, so you're saying like the dentist customer is going to call and they want to talk to a specific specialist?
Yeah, like if it's my dentist, I want to talk to my dentist only, or maybe because I have an emergency or a specific follow-up with him, only him he knows about details. I don't know.
Okay.
Maybe not. I don't know.
Yeah, so let's see. User has, yeah, so let's try that. User has a follow-up. So I think that would be useful for like follow-up questions on a procedure. And maybe there's going to have to be a better way to write this. Because what's going to happen is when the user wants to book an appointment, here we're going to determine if it's going to be an emergency. And if it is an emergency, we're then going to transfer that over to a human. But I can also see the user has questions on a procedure that they just had. And I have to like maybe word it slightly better, but perfect. Let's see what else we have.
And obviously, user who mess it up and did a wrong phone number, I guess. That should happen.
Say that one more time.
Someone who made a mistake, who didn't connect, wanted to call someone else and he did the wrong phone number.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Well, we'll figure that one out. That will probably happen very, very few times, but it could happen. The other one that we didn't take into account, user has a question. Regarding their medication. All right, so their medication, that could be another one. Now, the other one too is if they're angry, right? What happens as part of our errors, what happens when they're angry, or maybe they're getting frustrated by the system, or something is happening and they want to talk to a human. So for that, what we're going to do is we are going to build what's going to be called a global node. So anytime in the situation that they're angry or that they want to speak to a human, we want to transfer that call. And I'm going to click on this call transfer here. And I'm going to drag this. I'm going to make this slightly bigger. I'm going to drag this over here just because this is going to be my global node. It doesn't matter where you drag it. I'm just there for preferences. But here for our transfer call, what we want to do is here where it says global node, what this means is that at any point throughout this whole conversation, if a customer gets angry or they want to talk to a human, they will automatically be transferred over here. So I'm going to select this global node and I want to describe the condition. So, you know, user is angry or wants to talk to a human. For this, I'm just going to do a cold transfer. We could do a warm transfer there as well and pass a message, but if the user is angry, they typically just going to want to be transferred right away and not listen to any more AI. So I'm just going to do a cold transfer, and then we're going to pass the transfer's number, right? So whoever's calling, we want to pass that number over. And then I'm going to go ahead and put a phone number here. Let me put my friend's number here so we can transfer over to him when we test this out. 218. Perfect. So now we're going to be transferring this over to this number anytime the user gets angry. And I'm going to go ahead and save that. So you can see now it changed, and now it became a global node. Any questions on that before we move on?
I have a question regarding the prompting.
Yep, what's up?
If my agent should speak only in German, and he should tell some specific sentences, should I write prompt on English and tell him say this and say that, and mix the languages, or it is better in this case to write everything on German?
So if I was doing it, I will write, let me go back to Notion. I guess if that depends. I would write it in English, like something like this. Like if I had to say, if user asks, I don't know, ask our address, say, and then I would put, like, the say part, it would be in German. I don't know but I would put this in German, right? So that would be in German, but the instructions, this part would be in English. That's how I would do it, but I think it comes down to testing. Unfortunately, I don't have a huge experience with German. I think it would have to come down to test it and see what you get a better result. But if you put it between the quotes, it's gonna say it like that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully that's helpful. Okay, cool. Now here we have this transition failed, and we need to handle something here, right? Because what happens if that person that we're transferring the call doesn't answer? You might want to do, something else. You might want to maybe try to transfer to another person or something like that. In this example, we're just going to want to tell the user something back. So I'm going to click on my conversation node here on the top left. And I'm going to say something like, I'm going to put this as a prompt instead of a static message, which you could. But here I'm just going to put inform the user that we are technical issues and we will get back to them. Perfect. And I'm going to connect these two nodes right here. So I'm just going to click on it. And you can see as soon as I click on it, there's this little like plus that comes up. So I'm just going to drag that onto my conversation node. And then for the transition here, I'm going to click on skip response because we don't need it to do anything else from here. So I'm going to inform the user that we're having technical issues and pretty much, say that, hey, we'll call you back. But, it depends up to your use case. In mine, I don't need it to do anything else. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this skip response. So that means it's just going to tell the user this message, hey, sorry, we're having issues. And then it's just going to move on to the next thing, which the next thing for us is going to be this end call. So I'm going to click on the ending, and all I'm going to do is drag it here and just connect the two. Are we all good so far? Seems like there's a couple of questions here.
Yeah, I would like to ask, this only works when the transfer is failed. Basically, when you have the output that transfer is failed. But
Yeah.
what if the call is transferred, but no one answers? Let's say it's ringing for 2 minutes, and then what would happen in that case?
Well, if the call, it still failed, right? The call wasn't transferred over successfully.
Okay.
Right.
I got that.
Yeah. So this is like something happened, right? The call didn't answer. Literally that the transfer was failed, and this will apply both warm transfer and the cold transfer. And when that happens, then we're just going to inform the user, and we'll test this out right now. We're just going to inform the user that there's an issue, right? But you might want to do something else. Maybe you don't want to inform the user that there's an issue. You might want to say, I'm sorry, we're having issues. Let's try again. Maybe you want to try again. You could do that.
Okay. I thought that the call would be as successful even though that the human didn't answer. But yeah, I got the point. Thank you.
Okay. Cool. Let's see. I'm just start.
Yeah, Alex, a quick question.
Yeah, what's up?
So on the starting of the call, you connected to one welcome node, right? So here, can I, in the call start with landing onto the logic node and to determine whether it's within the business hours, then have it on that separate static message if it is within the business hours and it is outside of business hours. So my question is when I begin start with a logic node to determine the business hours.
Sorry, I didn't kind of hear you, but I think you're saying you want to start like this message differently depending on the business hours. Is that?
Yes, I want to determine whether the caller has called within the business hours or not before even starting the welcome node.
Okay. So yes, we are going to be going over them, and the way we're going to accomplish that is going to be through our webhooks. So here we're going to have an inbound webhook. So that means that when the call is happening, we're going to know, if this is going to be, if it's morning or the day of the day or the day of the day. So then we can do something with that information, right? So, for example, instead of sending this static message here, maybe I want to do a prompt, and instead of me typing it, maybe I want to have a dynamic variable with that. So this could just be greeting. And in the background, and we will cover that. In the background, we're going to create this dynamic variable and then pass that dynamic greeting. So instead of saying, hey, thank you for calling this, she might say, thank you for calling retail dental, or thank you for calling, or good afternoon, thank you for calling detail, whatever, or good morning. So it can be a little more dynamic. Hopefully that's what you're referring to, but we would use our inbound webhook to make that happen.
Okay, so based on the dynamic variable, can I have this call to be allow for further processing, or can I end the call? Means if it is outside of business hours, then just simply let the customer know that you called outside of business hours. Please visit our website or call during this hours, and just end the call.
Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, because technically, again, and I'll show you here in the documentation. We will be covering all of that, but let me see here. You see, as we're going to get the phone number, we're going to get some information, and then we have to send information back to retail when we get that. If they reach you outside of business hours, one thing that you could do is you could just send them to a separate agent, because here we are telling retail what agent to use, and maybe they're calling after hours, and we just want to say, hey, sorry, it's after hours, don't call us, bye. You can send them to a different agent that just does that. But if they're within business hours, then we can have another agent handle that. That's actually how we're going to do that for referral management, or maybe like prescriptions, or maybe if we know that they're calling from a pharmacy, then we don't need to handle appointment booking, scheduling, or any of that. We're just going to send them to an agent specifically to talk to the pharmacy, and we're going to be accomplishing that through the inbound webhook. So hopefully that makes sense, Distro.
Got it. So even this, that means that the customer is going to call to only one number, but behind the scenes, we will route to different agents, even though those agents are not associated with that number.
Correct. Exactly.
Okay.
So yeah, you can have one number and redirect to multiple agents depending on who that user that's calling you. So yeah, and this is new. So this is I don't know, I want to say like 2 weeks. I don't know if EB's on here, but this is fairly new, because you weren't able to do this before, where you could override the agent ID, and now you can, which allows all sorts of possibilities. Because I mentioned, typically in a dental office or a medical office, you know who's the person calling you. Like, you know that it's another medical center, or you know that it's a pharmacy, because they're going to use that number. And then we can make our agents more effective by only making an agent specifically for them. So then we just override that here. But if we know it's a caller, or we don't have their information, we're going to assume that it's going to be a patient, and then we just load up another agent. So yeah, again, this is great for, I think, making the experience much, much better.
Thank you. I just have one more question on the API level. For you're touching upon knowledge base, is a knowledge base can be resynced through API? Like right now, it is a 24 hours resync option, right? Auto resync. Is there any way that I can trigger the sync through API for a specific knowledge base?
So it's every 12 hours. It's syncing every 12 hours. Auto refresh, which is.
But on the option on the knowledge base, there is a checkbox that, not here, but on the configuration side, it says 24 hours. So I just kind of curious, is there any way to trigger the API? I know there is a way through the dashboard, but not, is there any way for ad hoc basis triggering through the API?
Yeah, through the.
If I add, click on the documents and add, there is an option to, if you select the web page, click on the web page, and the bottom you will.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Some random URL.
I see what you mean. Yeah, okay. For this, yeah, I typically don't use websites. I see what you're saying. Oof. Yeah, okay.
Just select one, just for the testing sake. You can remove it later.
Yeah, I'm just gonna select one for the sake of this, and then sync
so
auto
at
sync.
the bottom,
Got it.
24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Right now, I would have to ask about that. I don't know if that's coming in the roadmap. Like, how often would you want to check it? Besides 24 hours, like what? Every 12 hours? Every.
Yeah, 24. Not on the schedule. What I'm looking for is on ad hoc basis. Some document gets updated. As soon as that gets updated, I'm going to trigger through some automation and call the retail API to raising the knowledge base. That's why it's kind of a dynamic. Like, any changes on the knowledge base dynamically gets instantaneously updated to the agent, rather than triggering through the scheduler.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that for you, to be honest. There. So we are going to be having a whole section here on knowledge base. So I will look into that, and hopefully we can solve that by then.
Thank you.
But yeah, I'm gonna have to look into that, just to be frank here. I'm gonna set up.
Okay. Can we jump back to the global node for transfer calls?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm just setting up a phone number.
Okay, cool.
So
cool. Because we have some calls outside our business hours. So do I have now to make a new agent for organizing it? Because when the customer called us outside of business hours, so the global no transfer calls doesn't make any sense. Or is there another possibility to manage it before?
You're saying that if someone is calling outside after hours, it doesn't make sense to transfer the call?
Right. Yeah. Doesn't make sense. So nobody's here. So then always it will be at skippers once then. So can I avoid it before and say, hey, come on, it's outside the business hours. I know nobody will be here, so it doesn't make sense to transfer the call or try to transfer the call.
Yeah, so it depends on how you set it up. Typically, I find that a lot of dental offices, they do have after hours phone calls. Typically, it's an answering service because of emergencies. So they will have one. If in your situation, if you don't have one, we can certainly handle that. And that was going to be through the inbound webhook as well. So just like I said, instead of sending it to this, we could just send it somewhere else. If it's after hours. Maybe we could just...
Okay, so I can duplicate my whole agent and make a second one and manage it the webhook inside business hours and outside. This will be the solution for this, yeah.
Yeah, and then here we'll let's do that. You know what? We can do it really quick here. So let's first test this out. I'm gonna call this right now, and we're gonna test out the transfer call real quick. So we're gonna test out the transfer call. We'll make sure that it ends the call, and then what I'll do is I'll call again, and then I'm going to show you how that inbound webhook works, and then that way you can transfer them somewhere else. So what we'll do is we'll transfer to another agent that says, hey, it's outside of business hours, kick rocks. Very simple. Cool?
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, are we all good with that? Okay, so let's do that. We do have a phone number on this, and let me quickly now. The reason that I didn't want to get into this so soon, just because it involves us setting N8N. When you create an inbound webhook, there needs to be a place where we're creating this inbound webhook. So that's going to be N8N. Just really quick on the chat, can you put a 1 if you are familiar with N8N and a 0 if you're not familiar with N8N? Okay. Oof. Make.com. 1. So it seems like a lot of people are familiar with Make, but there's also a few that are not. So, with Make, with N8N. So N8N is just like Make.com. The only difference that we use N8N, or that I use N8N, 1, it's cheaper. 2, you can self-host it. So I have this installed in my own domain. You can see this is my domain here. It's installed in my own server, and you can make this HIPAA compliant. If you guys remember, part of our, and obviously this is just a demo, but part of our requirements here that it needs to be HIPAA compliant. Make.com is not HIPAA compliant in the sense that they're not going to sign what's called a business associate agreement with you, and so that's a real bummer. So Make.com is not HIPAA compliant, so that's where we're using N8N. I personally just like it better, but with N8N, you can host it. You can install this in your own computer if you want to right now. You can install this in the doctor's computer. So there's a lot of more flexibility there. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to click on the plus here, and I'm just going to create a webhook. And for this webhook, so this is the location where we want to send the information to, right? At the beginning of the call, if we go back to our documentation here, I'm going to go back to here at the beginning of the call for our inbound webhook. We are going to receive this information, the phone number, the from number, and then the to number, and then we need to respond back with something, which is going to be this. We need to respond back with those dynamic variables, or some sort of data. So that's what we're going to do here, and that information is going to be sent over to this URL here. Now I'm going to click on post because it needs to be a post request, and then I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to go back to retail, and I'm actually going to paste this at the phone number level. So I'm going to go back to my phone numbers, and I think I'm using 424. I think it was this one. Yeah, this one. So you see it says add an inbound webhook here. I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to put that URL there, and then that's going to be saved. Now what's going to happen is anytime I make a call to this phone number, information is going to be sent over to this webhook. Okay, and then we're going to do something with that information there. So let me make sure everything is good, and I'm going to go ahead and give this a call. Before I give it a call, I'm going to listen for the event. So I'm going to test it out. Let me see what the phone number is really quick here. Okay, so I'm gonna, let me test it, click listen, let's call this.
Hi there, thank you for calling Retail Dental. This is Mia speaking. How can I help you today?
Hey Mia, can you transfer me over to a human, please, right away? Yo, hey, I'm gonna call you again, and can you not answer? Just let it go to, don't answer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, bye.
Yeah.
So you saw that the transfer call worked, right? So the transfer call did work. Now I'm gonna call him back just so that we can see and we can go through this. Let me go.
When the call was answered, will that be an end call there in the flow?
When the end call, yeah, that's pretty much it ends. You also get a notification on the agent through like a webhook, if that's what you're referring. We can get that information.
So where will the call be charged? Would that, in the recording, it will not be there? The transferred call recording will not be there, correct?
No, it's not. And I'll show you. Watch. If I go back to call history, here's the call transfer. You can see that it was transferred successfully. And then you see that's the last thing that you hear.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, and then we can see that a transition, it was called successful. It was a cold transfer, and then we get the result, which was successfully transferred.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
And one, something related to this topic, if the customer doesn't want to save the recording in retail, or they want to save it in their servers or something like that, is it possible?
Yeah, you can save that to wherever you like. I'm going to show you that. We'll go through that here, okay? So, yeah, we'll go. I'll show you how that works. I'm going to call back, and he won't answer, and then we want to see this, right? We want to make sure that this is working, which is the transfer failed. So we'll see how that works. And then just really quick, you'll notice too that when I made the call, this is the information that I got, right? So I got this from number, and then I got this to number, and then I got the agent ID. I'm going to show you how we can use this after we test this out, okay? I'm going to give it one more call here.
Hi there, thank you for calling Retail Dental. This is Mia speaking. How can I help you today?
Hey Mia, can you transfer me over to a human?
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
So he forwarded my call, and I didn't detect the voicemail there. So that was another thing that I should have done there. And we'll test this out again. Voicemail detection. I'm just going to hang up. Totally forgot about the voicemail detection. So let's go back. Let me take a look at the call history. We should get a status of, let's see what happened here. So that's something to be mindful there. We transferred the call, the voicemail answered, and this was marked as a successful transfer, even though technically it was not. So again, be mindful of this. I didn't check the voicemail at first, and obviously we can see that this was a successful transfer, even though it technically wasn't. So I did do the voicemail now, just so that that shouldn't happen in the future there. So I'm gonna go test it out again, but before we test it out, I will show you guys this, right? So now that we have this information, this is happening anytime someone is calling our phone number. Earlier, what you guys are saying is, what you can do is you can do something like a switch node, or let's see, I could do like the time right now. I could get the date right now. So let me see, date. I could get the current date right now. So if I test this, it's going to tell me, exactly what time, what date and time it is. What I could do then is I could do some sort of like switch node where, let's say that if this current date and time is greater, or it's past 5 p.m., let's just say, and again, this is, I would have to do this another way, but let's just say that it's equal, you see it's the date and time. So I could use date and time, and maybe is after. So let's just say that it's going to be after that, and then it's going to be after 5 p.m. So that's going to be 1700 hours. And so maybe it's going to be after 5 p.m. So it's going to be after or close. Maybe you're already closed by here. And technically, we could also add a before, which we could drag this current date and time there, and we could check date and time. Let me scroll down. Date and time is, let's see, so date and time is before, let me see how this would be the best way to handle it. Because I can add another one actually. Okay. Obviously, I would have to figure out the best way to get this time, but essentially, we're going to check if it's within business hours. We would somehow do that, and maybe through some other code, but somehow we would do that. Ultimately, what we want to do is return back a value, and what we want to return is going to be this code node, and what we want to send back is going to be this information from retail. So I'm going to copy this. We're going to copy that. I'm going to go back to N8N, and I'm just going to return that. So I'm going to return an object just like that, that's going to have my agent ID. So I'll go ahead and select that agent. I'll paste that in here. Here I can also create dynamic variables. So I'm going to leave the customer name as John Doe for the sake of this, and some metadata. I can always do that. So this is going to be a dynamic variable that I can also use within my agent. So if I go back to retail, on this greeting, right, I could say, I could have a static message that says hi. And because we're going to be porting in this dynamic variable, which is going to be called customer name, I could reference this dynamic variable in here, just like that. Perfect. So I'm going to go back here, and I'm going to click on my webhook, and I'm kind of going faster with this. We will go into more details. I just want to show you that we can send the information to different agents. So hopefully that makes sense, guys. I'm going to click the when last node finishes. This is just because when you send the information, we don't want it to respond right away. We want it to respond once the actions are taken. So once you do whatever logic you want, then you want to respond. I'm going to save this. I'm going to activate it. I'm going to save it. I'm going to go back to retail. I'm going to go back to my phone number really quick, and I'm going to update the webhook to the production model, just like that. And now I can call it, and this should answer. It should say, "Hi, Alex." Hi, Alex, and then I'm going to let's see here, or hi, John. Actually, I think we passed John over.
Hi, John Doe.
Hey, can you transfer me over to a human?
Your call has been forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up.
Okay, so that's still detecting my voicemail. So that right there is something I'm gonna have to take a look into, because that transfer call is still gonna be marked as successful. If I go back to my call history, it was still marked as successful even though it was a voicemail. So that shouldn't have been happening. Should have detected the voicemail, and I don't know why he didn't. So that's something to look into. But really quick, so I'm gonna have to look into that. I'm gonna show you really quick how we can swap the agents. I think the voicemail detection is not for transfer call. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look into that, Mohammed, there, for the transfer call. Yeah, if that doesn't work, I'm gonna have to figure out another way to handle that voicemail. Here I'm just gonna show you if you did want to create an agent that's just like after hours. I'm just gonna show you that. I'm just gonna make a simple single prompt agent. I'm just gonna call after hours, just so you can see that it can work with the different one. And then all I'm gonna do is add a simple task, and it's gonna say so something like that, just very simple. Again, you can put anything that you like here. Here we're gonna do the AI is gonna begin with the message, initiate with the message, and I'll actually put, sorry you called us after hours. Okay. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna get this agent ID, and I'm gonna go back to my end-to-end workflow, and instead of returning that previous one that I had just sent for the conversational flow, here I can return this one. So essentially, again, you would wanna check for the business hours. If it's open, return one agent ID. If it's not, return another one. Hopefully that makes sense. And I'm gonna click save, and then we'll call this, and now what should happen is I should hear that it's after hours.
Sorry you called us after hours.
Can you repeat that one more time? Hello?
Certainly. Apologies for the inconvenience. We are currently closed. Please call back between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Thank you.
And there you have it. So hopefully that's kind of what you guys were leaning towards. That way you can just swap out agents as you like, depending on who's calling you. Was any questions on any of that? I know I kind of went all over the place here.
Will it not be easier to indicate that in the prompts?
Say that one more time, please.
Will it not be easier to indicate that information in the prompts, like the checking the date and the time directly, and if the time is too late to providing the specific answer? No.
Well, because
it should be done like this.
Because the inbound webhook is it's before it goes to retail. So what would happen is what you're saying is that technically I could speak to an agent, and then that agent could say, hey, it's after hours, transfer me over, or it could just work. I guess what you're trying to say, right? You could.
Yeah.
And you absolutely could. However, though, the benefit of doing it, and why I'm doing it this way, the benefit of this is that you're oftentimes going to know who the person is calling you, especially if you have them in your system. And you could handle it that way, but maybe you have an after hours agent that it says like, you know what, I'm sorry, we can't call you, or it's after hours, we only handle emergency situations. You know, what's your situation? And then that agent could determine if it's an emergency, right? Because it's after hours or not. So it could be more specific versus if you have it in one agent, then that agent is responsible for doing all of that, which can be overwhelming, slow, and then it can cause hallucinations.
Where I've seen more value, I don't know if it's possible or not, is to be able to recognize the phone number of the one who is calling you directly without asking.
Yeah.
And adapt your, like, saying, hey, Steve, again, you're calling me back.
And you could, and that's literally what I mean. That's exactly what I mean. I really suggest you guys go check out my other videos. But let me see here. Because I literally have that. Get patient, inbound webhook. This is a perfect example. When a user is calling us here, we get their phone number. Here I called. I got the phone number. Now I can go ahead, here what I'm doing is I'm checking a database. Then I'm checking Dr. Chrono, and I'm seeing, did this patient have a previous appointment? Are they calling about appointment? What happened with this patient beforehand? We get all this information. I get the patient's profile, and then I send this back to retail as a response. And I respond back with the user. Here I'm just responding with appointment times, but I can respond back with anything. Just like as you mentioned, I could say, hey Steve, thank you for calling me back. Hey Jerome, I saw that you, thank you for calling. I saw that you last had an appointment for dental cleaning. Are you having an issue with that? Whatever's. And all that happens through the inbound webhook. This is super powerful, guys. Yeah, all through inbound webhook. Hopefully that makes sense. Is this?
Yeah, so it's just the variable is the phone number you are showing here that will be automatically recognized, right?
Yeah, because you just need to plug it into whatever system you're using. Whatever it is, like what do you use? Where would this be phone number stored in your situation?
In Airtable base.
Perfect. So Airtable. So I received, okay, so I already called it, right? I got the phone number. All I got to do is add a note here. I'm going to search Airtable. Right? So I'm going to do a little Airtable. Perfect. I want to get a record. So maybe I want to get a record here. Obviously, I don't have Airtable. I want to search for that record, get whatever information I want from that record, and then send it back to retail. And in here, in the customer name, because these are the dynamic variables, this is what retail is going to have access to within the prompt. So the customer name, maybe you have last call. Maybe you have a field for last call, right? Like what happened during the last call.
Yeah.
We could easily do that. Add whatever's, right? Maybe you need their birthday. Same thing. Date of birth, we can use that, and then we can pass whatever fields here. Obviously, this is going to come from the database, right? From Airtable, from Google Sheets, whatever. Yeah. So all that's done through here. Same thing with, for example, Airtable, you're going to get a road record, right? You're going to get something. Like in my example, I typically get a contact ID, and the contact ID helps you search for that person. You could also store that within the metadata for later use. So that's another one there.
Okay, nice.
Cool. Any questions?
I got one. Hopefully it's not a dumb one, Alex. Sorry for that.
That's okay.
But I noticed like you're putting the inbound webhook on the phone number, in which I usually put on the agent's webhook settings. Is there a difference between those two locations, or?
No, that's just new. Because like I said before you weren't sending it like this. Before it was different. And I get what you're saying. Like I could go to my webhooks, right? And you have it here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could put it there also. That's okay. You can put it there as well. But here I'm having it on the phone number because this is where people are going to be calling, right? So again, I might not necessarily want to send them to this specific agent. I might have different agents that I'm going to be sending them to. So I put it at the phone level here.
Now, you can also add, for example, I'm in trouble with spam calls. So I can actually block numbers using the same idea that you just see here. You match a number, if it's on the list of do not call it will just block the number.
Exactly.
The studio, and it's a pain in the ass to do it from that side.
Exactly. Literally that. Exactly that. You're going to get the phone number. You could have a whole list of spam contacts or people that keep calling you and you don't want to talk to them. And then just do something else, like end the call or tell them to kick rocks, whatever's. And you can just filter that before even the call starts. So, yes.
That's cool because we're having this issue about two AIs talking to each other, and then we confuse credit. So this way we can avoid that. Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. Let me quickly go through these questions here. Sebastian, do you understand how the agent ID gets back to retail, or do you want me to go over that? Okay, non-technical here. Okay, I see that. Sorry. So the way the information goes back to retail, if we take a look at the documentation, right? Anytime retail sends us this, which is this is what they're going to send, the agent ID, the phone number, and all that stuff, we need to reply back with this information. And in NAN, our webhook, by default, when you go to respond data, right? So we need to respond. This is what's creating that response. It's typically set to, I think it's like, oh, let me see. It's actually set to immediately. We don't want it to do immediately because we only want it to respond once we do our logic. So if we click response when the last node finishes, our last node here returns, you see, return something. And that return something is those values that retail wants. So that's how we're returning it. Whatever you select last, it's going to return the value. That's why we want to do all of our logic in between this. We want to search the contact, pull whatever information, and then send that information back to retail. So that's how that's working.
Question here, but can we also use the respond webhook instead of last node?
Response webhook, you probably could. Yeah, it returns the data, right? So this will also be very similar.
So there's JSON and then respond with JSON, yeah.
Yep, and you could, and absolutely you could. There's multiple ways to handle it, guys. I don't want to just say this is the way to handle it. Multiple ways, but somehow we need to return data back to retail. You absolutely can use a response webhook, just as she mentioned, and add the data here. For me, I'm just using a code node just because it's there, and it's easier for me.
Do we know what the benefit is of using a response to webhook? I mean, obviously it sounds like it's the right thing to do, but is there any difference in this case?
There's not. Literally, there's not. It's how you like to. All that matters is that we return the data back to retail. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter how you return it. As long as we give retail this, that's all that matters. You can use a response webhook, you can use a code node, you can use your own code, you can use however you like to do it.
Cool.
Any other questions, concerns on any of what we discussed today? Yep, cool. Let me see. Okay, so just to recap, so let's see, it's 2, okay. So we built our prompt, we added, we built our prompt, we started building our transitions. We obviously built a transfer call, which we realized that it's not picking up voicemail, so thank you for that message there, Mohammed. I'm gonna have to look into that, about the voicemail detection for that. Obviously that we saw that the transfer failed. It's always succeeds if they have voicemail, so this message was not being transferred over, so we will figure out how to handle that, but it did transfer the call. And then we mapped out the rest of our transitions. In next workshop, we're going to be building out pretty much all these, the rest of these. So we're going to be handling the booking appointments, the scheduling, and then the rest of these use cases there. And then of course building out our knowledge base and all of that stuff. Any questions or anything like that? It doesn't have to be related to this. This could be your time to ask anything else that you're having issues with. So let me see here. Okay, Casey, you have a question there?
Yeah, there we go. Microphone's on. Thanks. Hey, love this stuff. And if you're going to talk about this in more detail further on in another session, just blow me off. But I'm loving the conversation flow. And the only difficulty that I'm having is, say, 4 or 5 nodes down where I am running a custom function. get Shopify order, or in this case, get, Dr. Kroger's previous patients. When that webhook is failing, I haven't found a way to just test that node rather than having to go through the entire flow again. Because in N8N, you can just go test this node till we get it right. Am I doing something wrong?
So you want to test a node in retail, right? Is that what you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know exactly about testing just that particular node. I get what you're saying. Like you have to go back to the whole flow of things.
Yes. So I don't know if, in your case, would you say best practice would be then to open up a new flow, put that node in by itself, and then test it until you get it working, and then go back to your main node to fix it?
You could do that. How do you activate the node really quick? Oh, we can test nodes separate.
In the new situation, so this is all voice, and basically, so what it is I say I'm ordered 1057 and I want to check on my shipping. And then she goes into Shopify and pulls that information back. And that's great, but that's 4 nodes into the conversation. And then I have to go through and pretend to be a customer, pretend to have an issue, pretend to go to the order. And then finally, I get her to then look for the order, and she triggers the webhook, and I have a problem.
Okay.
You know what I do in that case? I go through the testing, go through the whole conversation until I reach that node. If it fails, then you have the option with the trash can that you can press that, and then it only brings you back to the node.
Oh, it's right here.
That you didn't delete. Exactly.
Yeah, it's right here. Sorry. If you add the node, you just click on test. Mohammed is totally right. So you see, test right here.
Oh, so if I click on the node and hit test, it only tests that node?
Yeah, right here. Node settings, test.
Hey,
thanks, Mo. I owe you a drink.
Dude, you are Mohammed.
Yeah.
Mohammed should
That's
be up
what I
here
meant,
too.
Mohammed, yeah.
Just select, just click on test and select manual test. Click on it, manual chat. Yeah, and then we can select the node from here.
Oh.
From current node.
You see?
We can easily select the node from here and test that node.
Thank you. Solves everything for me.
There we have it. You see? Awesome. Another quick thing too though, Casey, just in the future, sometimes you do need to test things out. And for that, I use Postman. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with it, but Postman is a great way to test out things between APIs and other things. And maybe we'll dive into this, but Postman is another one for testing out between workflows. Especially, sometimes you need to send information from retail to node to N8N for testing out whatever workflows, and you don't want to keep making the call. You can just send it, and we'll go through this. I don't want to sidetrack you guys here.
Perfect. Nope, that's great. Thanks, all. Definitely do that.
Awesome. Let's see.
Alex.
What's up?
I have a rookie question. I'm new, and I actually missed the first of yesterday's event, but I apologize. So I'm going to ask a very basic question. How can I improve the quality of the voice agents not to sound so mechanical?
You can improve them all sorts of ways. One is obviously the way you've written your prompt, the way you write your prompt. What voice and what settings are you using?
Most of the ones I use are 11 Labs.
Okay.
When I was leading voice.
So I find, and I'm curious to see what you guys think, I find that I've tested a lot of these voices and even imported some of these. Sismo, she seems to be pretty good, right? So her.
Hey there, I'm Simo, your resilient AI. Hey there, I'm Simo, your resilient AI collaborator,
Simo
ready to
seems
rise
to be pretty
to
good
the
for me.
occasion and
I
transform
also
your
like
productivity.
Susan. Sound to be pretty good. So obviously the voice to me matters, and then we do have things like the voice model that you're using. You can test out different voice models depending on what your use case. I will play around with this. Like I said here, I typically use Flash. Multilingual does tend to be better, higher quality, but it tends to be a little bit slower. So you can play around that. You can try maybe multilingual, and then we can try high priority to make it faster. So that could also be something there. And then our speech settings. In our speech settings, again, you can enable the back channeling and stuff like that. That does sometimes make it sound a little bit more human. Background noise there. Yeah, those are kind of the main ones that I would use. That's really what I would play with. There, Wayne. Yeah, I would try different voices. Like I said, I tried a couple of them, and at first they sounded good. Like I used to like Chloe, but when I was trying it with the hair salon, Chloe sounds good at first, but then she gets real robotic. So you kind of have to test out a few of them. Like I said, I personally like Susan and Simo. I don't know which ones you guys are your go-to. Brian seems to be pretty good too. I think Brian.
Hey, I'm Brian. I'm Brian, ready to get going. Whatever you need, consider it done promptly. What are we working on right now?
Yeah, so I would play around with that, Wayne.
Yep, it's mostly the inbound is easier because it's more forgiving. It's the outbound where a lot of them sound very. I did play around with Simo before. She's okay. I forgot the other two that I was playing around with. But I normally stick towards 11 Lab. I found the other ones are not that great.
Yeah, I've tried like PlayHT. PlayHT, they are faster, but yeah, I don't know, something about the voice quality I'm not thrilled with.
Does anyone use any British accents that they particularly like?
Nah, I played around, but I didn't like any one of those British accents.
Yeah,
and I'm US based, so I'm kind of biased because of keep calling.
Yeah, true, fair enough. Although I hear that apparently a British accent can be okay in the US as well. So
yes, but it was very difficult to find one that didn't sound. Yeah, a good light British accent is phenomenal, but I couldn't find one there that didn't sound too, like I said, robotic or clunky or just not fitting right when you listen to it.
Yeah, that's what I tend to find as well. So yeah.
Has anybody played on with a custom voice?
I tried a few custom voices.
Yep.
No.
Here you can see I imported them. My only issue is at the latency. It adds to the latency, and that's a problem. I can't add it to the latency because then it makes a call. It doesn't matter if the voice is good if the call is slow.
How does it add to the latency? Is that because obviously that's something we were thinking of doing on custom voices there. So is it just within 11 Labs, or is there some other?
You can import it too within like PlayHT, but even within 11 Labs, right? Because then you also have to take into account that it also matters the account that you have within 11 Labs because they send you the information different, right? The quality is different depending on what you have there. So, maybe I haven't tried the business account. I'm not on the business account. If you guys are, I would love to hear. But, low latency there. So, yeah. But,
13... It's a big monthly price. Yeah.
$13.20 a month. Not quite there. So, yeah, so far, like I said, I've tried. And that's the only biggest issue. Latency. So, just kind of working with the ones that are within here.
Cool.
Okay.
Michael, you have a question?
Yeah. So I'm working with a bank here. So they are asking on the data security part. Let's take an example. They want the analytics anyway. There is an input to the call and there is an output to the call. We will extract the output, but they don't want the data to be stored in retail, and they want the data to be stored in their environment. How can that?
Okay, I'll show you. So let me see, security. So we want to opt out of sensitive data here.
Okay.
So that means that it's not going to be stored in the system. And then what you want to do is you want to use the agent webhook here.
Okay.
So at the agent webhook, and I'll show you what that looks like. The agent webhook is going to send you 3 events every single time a call happens. And I'll show you what those look like. I have a bunch of workflows here, so I forget where they're at. You see it has like call inbound. I'm going to show you the ones for the other ones, and let me find one that post call analysis. Okay, this one should have it. Okay, so if we take a look at the webhook, one of the things that we get is going to be this call analyze. We're going to get 3 things, 3 types of events: call started, call ended, and call analyzed. Call analyze is going to have literally the end of the call report type of deal. So from here, you could just extract the information and then send it to your own system. So for example, you might want the transcript, right? that transcript, you can grab it here. You can also grab the
Does it have
independent.
the entire transcript?
What's
Like
up?
the entire call transcript will be there?
Yeah, the entire call script is here.
Okay.
Same thing with the transcript object. If you wanted to break it down like by user and like role by role, you could do that. You have the tools. You have the call recording URL here. So what you would do is you could grab this URL, right? Because this is just going to download it for you. So when you click on it, this is going to download it. So you can download this and then just upload it to your own server there.
Okay.
So you have that. You have the latency. You have the disconnection reason, which that might be important, right? Voicemail was reached. The cost. Then you have the whole call analysis. This call analysis is going to contain any data that you extracted as well. So here we have the call summary, and then the sentiment, and then any analyzed data. So that data comes from here, right? So those dynamic variables, or let me see, where's that? Post-call analysis from right here.
So let's take an example. Email ID. If the customer tells the email ID a number, that will be there in that.
If you can add it on the custom analysis data if you want to.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
And all that would be there. You could also extract stuff. Let me see here. Let me see.
And this data will not be also stored there in retail, correct?
It's not. Not if you opt out of it.
All right.
So yeah, you can grab all of it from here, pretty much. Again, call analysis, call analyze.
The recording stored somewhere in retail, or because we're just downloading it?
Yeah, you would have to store it somewhere. In the dashboard itself, when you go to the dashboard, obviously we have the call recording there, and you can listen to it. But if you're listening to the data, you're gonna need to upload it somewhere so that you can listen to it. Here, I can listen to it, right?
Sorry you called us after hours.
I can just play it for all the calls.
Yes, in that way it is stored in retail, right?
It is. It's
because I have all the whole conversation with all the information that are said during the call, right?
Yes, it is. We just don't have access. Like I don't have the stored URL. It's not provided in here.
Uh-huh.
So if I'm listening to this, I would have to store it somewhere myself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where does the call recording store then? Sorry.
Well, if you opt out, it's not stored anywhere. Here, retail stores it, so we can listen to it like in the dashboard. Where it's stored, I don't know. Like Amazon, I would think Amazon or Google Cloud Services.
But if we delete the call history or something, and the data will be erased from retail, is my understanding right?
Yes, it is my understanding. I'm not entirely sure on that, but yes, I believe so. Yes. Like I couldn't get this. I mean, I don't know how I would even get if I deleted this call. Like, how I would get
so
this.
The question is more towards where does like if the data is erased and it should not be there with retail or something. That was the question that was asked by a customer.
Yeah, no. If it's erased, it should be erased completely.
All right, but on the webhook part, which you just said, click on the link. You can download the recording. Where exactly is the recording stored for us to? So this is okay, but if I opted out the recording, and you mentioned there is a webhook way where we can get the recording at the call transcript and everything, right?
Yeah. So we can try it. Let's here we can try that. I'll call this and or let me call an agent here. Just something real simple. We can call here. I'm gonna do the security, right? So I'm gonna opt out of sensitive data there, and I'm gonna add this agent, this URL really quick.
Just for an example, can you take one data out of that call, some customer name or whatever customer says, and to be retrieved here?
Yeah, you can retrieve it here. You can retrieve it through the post-call analysis if you need to collect information. Is that what you're referring to here?
When it is opted out, yes.
Right, so here I can do, I opted out, right? So I opted out sensitive information. Let's say I want to collect the user's name. so let's try this. So I'm going to save this. This should be saved. Let me make sure I have this turned on. Perfect. And I'll give this a call, and then we'll see what happens.
Sure.
And then it shouldn't store any information, right? So I did opt out of it. Let me see which ones I'm using. This one. Oh, geez, I already forgot. Oh, here it is. Duh. Okay, cool. Let's call this. Actually, here's hold on. I need to assign this a phone number real quick here. Okay, let's try this.
Thank you for calling Lux Hair Studio. This is Sarah. How may I help you?
Hey Sarah, my name is Alex. I need to book an appointment for a haircut.
Hi, Alex. Great choice. Have you been to our salon before, or is this your first time with us?
No, it's my first time.
Welcome to Lux Hair Studio, Alex. For your haircut, do you have a specific style in mind, or would you like some recommendations?
No, just a simple haircut.
Perfect. We have a range of stylists who can give you a fabulous haircut. Do you have a preference for the stylist level or price range?
The most expensive. The finest stylist.
You've got a taste for luxury, Alex. Our top stylists for haircuts are Kira and Aaron, priced at $120. Let me check their availability for you. When are you looking to book your appointment?
Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Hello, are you there?
Oops, it seems there was a little hiccup in the availability. Let me try again.
It's okay. Can you end the call? Just end the call.
Absolutely, Alex. Feel free to call back anytime and we'll get you sorted. Have a great day.
Yep, you too. Later. Cool. So I just want to go through that call there. And this is for a multi-prompt agent. It doesn't matter what it's for. So we did opt out of data. Just want to make sure I collected the name. So let's go back and look at the call. So call history, which should be this one here. And there you have it. So
yeah.
I got nothing. I don't have any call recording. Not even the phone number, actually. Not even the user sentiment or anything like that.
Okay.
But
everything will be collected at the webhook, correct?
But let's take a look at the webhook now. So here's our call. Again, these are the 3 items that we're going to get. Call started. So there's my call started. There is call ended. And see call analyze. Let's see what we got there. Call analyze. Perfect. So you can see my transcript. It's all right there. There's the transcript object. There's the tool calls. So that's a pretty long one. I won't go through it, but there's the tools. There's the recording URL. So you can see that I can download the recording, right? It's not stored anywhere for, I can download this. I forget how long this lives, but this, you see it. So I can download it. I have the recent, and then I have the rest of the information. So you can still get it through your own system.
Yeah. And how stable is, should we use a multi-prompt or conversational flow for complex banking projects, kind of?
I would say, yeah, if it's going to be something complex, you're most likely going to go through a conversational flow. I would also argue that maybe there's going to be times where you're going to use multiple agents, some of which could be a multi-prompt, depending on your use case. I find, honestly, frankly, I find that a lot of them are it's better to use multiple agents, but yeah.
Multiple prompt. What are you saying? What do you mean by multiple agents? Is it a conversational or a single prompt or multi-prompt? You are saying multi-prompt agent.
No. If it's a complex case, use the conversational prompt, the conversational flow builder. What I'm saying, sometimes you might want to use multiple agents and together. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Can I just ask one question because I'm in the flow of people raising the hand for.
Yeah, what's up? What's up? What's up?
I just have one, and it's a tricky one. I'm sorry. It's about the agenda. I know it's something we will see tomorrow, but probably I will not be there tomorrow. And maybe you can answer it tomorrow. I will look at it tomorrow. It's the issue I have is when you have a kind of complicated type of agenda or meeting to book. Let me explain. In case of a hairdresser, a lady who wants to book a meeting for a color, the first 1 hour slot is needed to apply the color, for example. Then the client needs to wait for about 1 hour while the color is processing. But during this time, the hairdresser should be able to take another client. And finally, they need to be available for another 1 or 2 hours to rinse and finish the treatment. So my question is, what's the best approach for that? Is it about the prompts you put in maybe GPT with an AI to manage that, or is there any trick you think about that? Because it's true for hairdresser, but it's true also when you have multiple, I don't know, table in a restaurant to book. It's not only one agenda you are giving. I saw in with cal.com you can set up several lists of agendas. For the restaurant, maybe it's the trick. But for the hairdresser, I didn't catch how you can do that.
So for a hairdresser, it's really going to be dependent on what system that they use, because you could, and you're basically saying that, like, okay, handling multiple people, like, or multiple doctors. I think someone else mentioned earlier. What if there's multiple doctors? Then that depends on the way their system is, because you could book directly to those multiple doctors and filter through that through a using something like N8N. But you're saying that, like, for the appointment booking, someone books an appointment with the hairdresser, and then there's going to be an hour where they're not going to be doing anything, right?
Yeah.
There's an hour where they're not doing anything. They're just waiting there with their hair, and you want to be able to take an appointment during that time, correct?
Yeah, during the hour.
Okay. So you want to take that is going to be dependent. Like, frankly, that shouldn't be up to you to fix, because that should be on their booking system. Their booking system needs to handle that. You should be able to call the API point and see if it's available or not. That's going to be dependent on the booking system. To me,
I'm not sure most of the hairdresser they have a complex booking system to.
Yeah, because that's going to be using something like Acuity.
Lots of people are doing, by hands or in their.
Okay.
Their Google calendar, like setting up 2 types of meetings.
So if you were doing it, if it's just done manually like that, then maybe something through like cal.com. You would have to do something like that through cal.com. It's going to require some logic for sure. You're going to need some code there.
I was thinking about putting a kind of agent, AI agent in 8M, and then to manage the best prompt possible, ChatGPT or whatever. But I'm not sure they can do go and go back, because you need to book, then to go back, and again to book. I'm not sure. So.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to have to, I think, I'm going to have to think about that one. On how to best handle that. Yeah, I know, and trust me, I know all about hairdressers and beauty salons. They're tricky, for sure. They're very tricky. So, I'll have to get back to you on that, Jerome. Steve?
Maybe if you think about it and explain it tomorrow, and if you read your story, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that. And again, Mohammed coming in clutch with the answers. So thank you for answering that there, Mohammed, there on the recording link expires after 10 minutes. So cool. Very good to know. When you opt out of sensitive information there. Steve, you have a question?
Yes. This is about a use case that we encountered today, in which we were having like a problem in which we found a solution, but it involves automation. So the question for you will be, if you have a solution without automation and can be within retail. And the use case will be is when we did a batch call, we uploaded a CSV file that has a phone number, name, and then merchant ID number. Now, the merchant ID number the AI should not use that information, but it's just internally for us to match with the CRM. So when we do a batch call, and then we export the batch call results, the merchant ID number from the original CSV file does not transfer over to the export. I was wondering if, since we already have that information within retail, if we can map it somehow without, because right now we just use automation. We just pull the, if the phone number matches the phone number called, then paste the merchant ID number. But when we do 10,000 calls, the automation adds up. So is there a way to get that info from the original CSV file when we do an export?
That is a fantastic question. And I don't have an answer for it, unfortunately. I would have to try it out. I don't know why Google Sheets is not working. I'm trying to import this thing.
Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying. Yeah, I get what you're saying. And I know you're trying to do it within, just like without using any sort of external, right? We don't want to use any external tools. Yeah, because here we just get batch calls. I'm going to have to find out on that, to be completely honest with you here. Because what I'm thinking is, I know we have these dynamic variables, but also when you do create a call, you can add metadata. That's kind of what I was talking about earlier, about the fact that we can have metadata, and that's information that we can use later. We don't need to use it within the agent itself, but we might need to use it like that merchant ID, right? You're going to need that afterwards. Same thing with the contact ID. I don't need it in the prompt, but I need it afterwards. So here I see that we have the dynamic variables, but I'm thinking, what if we added metadata? And I have to verify that, because that might be the solution there, just using metadata as a table title. And Mohammed, maybe Mohammed knows. But I will have to find out on that for you.
All right. So for the next meeting, or on like how, because I would love to know the answer.
Yeah. I will message. And then, let me see here. You can put your email, or we can discuss it in the next meeting there as well. I'll find out for you. The next meeting for sure.
Thanks, man.
Oh, I got your email. Okay. That's my email. Let me copy this real quick here. Cool. So I will find that for you, Steve. And then, Daniel, I did get your call IDs, if you're still on the call, by the way. So, cool. All right, guys. Any other questions, concerns? Thank you guys for joining me. I know it's already been like 2 hours.
Is there a way to get the previous meeting recording? Last meetings, yesterday's meeting, I missed it. Is it possible to get the recording of that meeting?
We didn't record it. Our system failed and we didn't record it, sadly. I know.
No problem.
Yeah, sadly we didn't record it, so I'm not sure if maybe I'll do it again. But we didn't record. This one I am recording for sure, using Loom.
And this will be in the Discord?
Yeah, this will be in Discord, and it's also on the Notion document. So the Notion document, you'll see yesterday's conversation design here. And then it has the templates and everything here.
Got it. I saw this one. I thought of checking the meeting recording. And the meeting recording will be posted here in today's call?
Yeah, it will be in Discord, and then it will also be posted here and in the YouTube channel, and it should,
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Yesterday's recording is on route to, okay. There you go. Evie told me that it was, I thought it was not recorded, so I'm glad it was recorded then.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, like 2 hours ago.
Oh, yeah, perfect. Yeah, she did record it. It was recorded. Cool. There you go. I thought it wasn't recorded, so yeah. There you have it.
Thank you.
So it is or not. I will actually upload it to the Notion document. And yeah. Any other questions, concerns, any feedback, anything else before we hop off here, guys? No? All right, so if there's no any other questions or concerns, I'll let you guys go. Thank you all for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. We're going to continue pretty much where we left off and just continue building here. And yeah.
Thanks a lot, Alex. Thanks for
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks a lot, Alex.
In the meantime, again, if anything else comes up and you just want to put it on Discord for us to cover throughout these series of workshops, feel free to put them there. So I want to make sure that you guys get as much help as possible here.
Thanks, Alex.
Cool, guys. Hope you guys have a great day, and we'll talk next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.